Welcome to the final part of the series. In this video we will finish the board by wrapping it in carbon fiber and applying the traction pad. Let's get started. First I apply a layer of epoxy resin to the top of the board. Then I carefully position and drape the carbon fiber cloth over the surface, ensuring the edges are neatly folded over. Once everything is in place, I brush epoxy over the fabric, thoroughly soaking it and shaping the edges. The carbon fiber fabric feels very soft and flexible and is also easy to shape. I make sure that the fabric is completely covered with resin and absorbs it well. I pay particular attention to ensuring that the edge is optimally positioned and saturated with resin. Next, I apply the peel ply fabric, wrap the board in an old blanket for pressure, and make sure everything stays tight during vacuuming. It's important to maintain tension and avoid any wrinkles during this step. After the epoxy has cured, I unwrap the board, removing the blanket and peel ply. This was the first time I had worked with carbon fiber. The resulting carbon composite is much harder and more stable than glass fiber composites. This is where I realized that I could have done without the 3 layers of glass fiber because the 1 layer of carbon is already very stable and stiff.
Nice motherfucker. Oh yeah. It's gorgeous. It's fucking solid. It's solid as fucking hell. Nice.
I then trim the excess carbon fiber around the edges and sand the surface to prepare it for the next layer of epoxy. Unfortunately, I didn't film the process. When I removed the excess carbon, I realized how hard wearing carbon is. It is much harder to work on carbon compared to glass fiber composites. You have to be very careful when cutting so that you don't injure yourself. Next, I mark the lamination line and mask off the areas I don't want to laminate. After that, I remove any sanding dust and thoroughly degrease the surface to ensure a clean bond. And again, I start by applying epoxy resin to the bottom side of the board. Then I lay the carbon fiber cloth flat on the table and carefully place the board on top, making sure the cloth is perfectly aligned. I brush epoxy around the edges of the board, fold the carbon fiber over the sides and shape the edges carefully. Once the edges are done, I fully coat the surface with epoxy and work out any folds and wrinkles. Just like before, I apply the peel ply fabric and wrap the board in a blanket to create tension. Then I vacuum the entire piece, making sure to keep the tension and avoid any creases. Once the epoxy is dry, I unwrap the board, remove any excess carbon fiber and give the board a smooth sanding to even out the surface. Now I apply a final sealing layer of epoxy resin to give the board a glossy finish. I use a torch to remove any air bubbles and let it dry. Finally, I apply the EVA traction pad to the board, securing it firmly to ensure it stays in place. That's it! The board is now fully wrapped in carbon fiber and finished with the traction pad. I hope you enjoyed this series and found it helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. See you next time!